Hi everyone, I'm Bonnie Wintle and I'm part of the elicitation team on the repliCATS project. Thank you for tuning in to this short video on how we elicit judgments from your big and beautiful brains. So our job in the SCORE program is to use human expertise to judge the reliability of scientific claims. But that's not just as simple as asking an expert. There have been a lot of books over the last decade about expert judgment and how bad it is or how wrong experts can be. There's compelling empirical evidence that experts in virtually every domain from political forecasting to psychotherapy can often be outperformed by a simple statistical model or even just taking the simple average of a group of vaguely well-informed people. So basically, we can't really rely on the judgments of a single expert. We all know that experts make mistakes, particularly when making difficult judgments involving probability and risk. And there are plenty of examples from real life decision making where experts have spectacularly failed, such as the decision to launch the ill-fated Challenger space shuttle, which was based on highly overconfident and inaccurate risk judgments. The outbreak of foot and mouth disease in the UK. Another example is the decision to bring in cane toads to Australia to control the sugarcane beetle. Down here we have seismologists standing back in Italy while a mayor told people not to worry about the tremors, earthquake tremors, and to go back home and have a nice glass of red wine before a devastating earthquake hit. So these are just a few pretty major disasters that have been related back to faulty expert judgments. So long before we started repliCATS, some of our team, alongside Professor Mark Bergman, ran a series of workshops to see how well experts could answer a set of questions about their discipline. So we made sure that they were fair questions and that these were questions that could be verified by past data. So they were the sorts of questions that the experts would encounter in their day-to-day jobs. Like, for example, for an epidemiologist, they might be asked something like, what's the average number of cases reported of Q fever, so a bacterial disease in the livestock industry, per year in Australia from 2001 to 2006, like over a 5-year period. Just an example question. Participants were also asked to privately rank or score their own expertise from 0 to 10, representing how well they expected to perform on the test questions. So how many questions they thought they'd get right. Then we went around the room and asked people to stand up and introduce themselves to the rest of the group. So for example, telling us about their years of expertise or how many papers they've written, how many books they've written, who they work for, which revered scientific committees and boards they sit on, and so on. And as everybody was going around the room introducing themselves, we asked everyone else to privately score their expertise. So how many questions did they think the others would get right? So how well does your perception of your own expertise match up with how other people see you? So that is other people's perceptions of your expertise. Really well, as we can see on this slide. So the plot shows a really high correlation with how people rated their own expertise and how other people rated it. Typically we see high scores for people who are professors, who have lots of years of experience, have grey hair, wear wear spectacles and tweed jackets, a bit like this guy over here, and so on. So basically, the upshot of this part of the study is that we think we can guess how well people can answer scientific questions based on how they look or how confident they are, how many books they've written. So how does this hold up? Are these people any better at answering questions of fact about their area of expertise, these people who we consider to be the best experts? We hope that they're better at answering these questions of fact, because these are the people that we get to sit on our scientific boards and committees. These are the ones who have a privileged say in society, involved in making important decisions affecting society. And the answer is, unfortunately, no. There is no relationship that we can see between how other people perceive your expertise and how accurate your judgments and predictions are. And we saw this again and again in different workshops with different experts, with different disciplines. So we cannot know beforehand how accurate people are going to be when they answer these sorts of questions. Of course, there are ways you can get better, be a better judge, a better expert through feedback and training, but our current architecture of science doesn't really support it. Also, some people are just better than others at these sorts of tasks, but we can't predict in advance who these people are going to be. One of the reasons experts make mistakes is because, like all of us, they're only human, and humans, as many of you are aware, I'm sure, often use heuristics or mental shortcuts, which lead us to make reasoning and judgment errors. And here are just a few items from a very, very long list of cognitive heuristics and biases that lead human judgment astray. And I won't go into them here because I'm sure most of you are, or this audience is pretty familiar with them. But these are the types of things that cause problems when we attempt to make uncertain and difficult judgments or predictions. So we know that experts are not immune to these cognitive biases. And what's worse is that this one, overconfidence, is even more common in expert judgment, and that exacerbates the others. So we started looking into methods for reducing overconfidence, and this is what we settled on for eliciting probabilities. This is the method that forms the basis of the repliCATS approach as well. So when we ask experts to give us a probability of a particular outcome, for example, what's the probability that Biden will win the next presidential election in the US? We think this structured elicitation format helps the expert by breaking down the question into multiple steps. So first they consider the lower bound, then the upper bound, and then finally the best guess. And there are good reasons for asking the question in this way. So dividing the question into multiple steps improves the chances that people will think about different kinds of evidence. We're kind of, each time we're asking for this judgment, we're sampling the information in the brain, in their heads again. We also ask people, when we're asking these questions, to consider counter arguments when they're giving their upper and lower bounds. So to think of reasons that might make this likely to happen when you give your upper bound, and reasons that might make it unlikely when you're giving your lower bound. And finally, question order also affects judgment. So starting with a single best guess tends to lead to anchoring and overly narrow bounds, compared with when the interval is elicited first, when the expert has had the opportunity to actively consider reasons for and against something. So reasons why this number might be high, reasons why this number might be low. So we think that structured elicitation formats in a structured environment for asking the question generates relatively accurate, well-calibrated estimates of fact. The other critical aspect of the repliCATS approach is to use group judgments, not individual ones. So we know that the group average of multiple judgments tends to be very close to true values, mainly because random and systematic errors of individuals tend to cancel each other out. And this phenomenon is remarkably robust. Diversity amongst a group of judgments is good because it introduces different perspectives, new information, promotes critical thinking, forces people to consider counter arguments, whole suite of reasons why diversity is great. And this plot here, this is just some of our own evidence from the study of expertise that I showed you earlier, where the person with the highest expert status was generally outperformed, not always, but generally outperformed by the group average. And here, a lower score is better or more accurate. So these two aspects I've just shown you, the structured elicitation and group judgments, or a group format for making these judgments, are combined in what we call the IDEA protocol. And this is what we use in our repliCATS workshops. So in short, IDEA stands for investigate, discuss, estimate, and aggregate. So first we recruit diverse groups, or as diverse as possible. Then we ask group members, that's you in this case, to read through a paper and privately give your first round responses to our questions about that paper. So this might include, for example, your estimate of the probability that you'd see the same results of the study if you tried to replicate it. We also ask you to provide your reasoning behind your judgments. So why do you think the results in this paper or the findings are really reliable, or why they might not be? Then we show the group, everyone's anonymous estimates and reasoning. We discuss these, and then we ask you to go away and privately revise your estimates in light of discussion. And finally, aggregate. Here we use different methods to mathematically aggregate or to combine your judgments. And this might be as simple as taking a group average, or as sophisticated as weighting different people's judgments by the breadth of their reasoning. So that's it from me. It's as simple as that, our approach. Thanks for viewing this little primer on expert elicitation, and a huge thank you for participating in our research.